Hi, anybody who might have stumbled on this video. Um, I wanted to start making videos again. It feels like a really good way to express myself. I've been through a lot of transformation lately, and I can accept this as something that brings me real joy. Um, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about was like finding joy in all of this, finding joy in the struggle that's life. But I wanted to do it from a place that's not so serious. Um, I wanted to do it from a place that really helped me to break that cycle of hurting myself over and over again, of calling to myself the same problems, the same people, reflecting the same situations. And that really was meeting myself, and in particular, the childlike part of myself with love. And so, I've heard, and I'm sure a lot of us have heard all about the inner child, but to really experience it has been the most profound and transforming moment of my life. Like that's really what it came down to, was being able to take all of these big scary worries, these frightening things, and turn them into a chance to look at them with, the eyes of wonder that a child has. I put a few notes and to kind of like organize my thoughts a little bit, because accessing this space kind of does make you a little a little free form, but like the experience of that child is one who sometimes wants to like accomplish something just to accomplish it. And so these notes like hopefully help direct, because I'm trying to do this in one take. You know, when I was facing these really difficult things, like and we all do in one way or another, I felt so much pressure from this idea of social pressure, of pressure that I put on myself to be a certain way. I realized that my whole belief system was like I didn't know what it was. I kind of lost my sense of self, and it was by connecting with this part of myself that's kind of free of all of these constraints. That the child sees what they see in the moment, and it destroyed those limiting beliefs. It broke apart what I thought was possible, what I could possibly do, and putting faith in that was, I think, the best thing I could have done at the moment. Like I said, it became the ultimate protection. All of those laughing eyes, the hateful thoughts, the feelings of lowness and weakness were destroyed when I was able to look at these things with curiosity and apply imagination to it and try to figure it out, try to figure out where these things came from. It was something that I could always find right there in the moment. And it's something that I've since realized I could find in every moment from now on. That ability to look at the world with a sense of newness and wonder is always available, no matter what you believe. It's just, do you really know what you believe? And if you don't, that's okay. You can start to figure that out. I've been taking these Vajrayana courses, this Tibetan Buddhist perspective of the world, and it talks a lot about awareness. And I think that's really what I found, and that's what I'm finding more and more when I talk about this state or this way of seeing things that is like the inner child. Is it brings awareness to the fact that we are always creators of our reality. That, when I say something like I was calling to myself these situations, it is like calling to yourself all the time. It's almost like a game that we play with ourselves when you kind of are able to take a step back and look at the world, you realize that you're already playing make believe. You you make believe a role and a job and a purpose and this whole sense of self that's tied up with all these patterned emotions and actions, and sometimes getting a sort of break, an emotional break, a mental break, a big life change can be the greatest opportunity to tap into something better. To see that, yeah, you are playing a game. Yeah, you are like a kid. But why are you playing a game where you're being unkind to yourself, where you're hurting yourself, where your thoughts turn back around? And that's the power of being a kid, is of tapping into that inner child, is you can play a different game. You can choose to, tell a different story. You start living life just to live life, right? A kid is out there playing make believe. And when you can realize you're playing make believe, you start doing it in a different way where all of your actions you can see as make believe, but knowing that gives you a sort of power over the situation. It gives you an ability to control what comes to you, but not by trying to hold on to control, by not trying to write the story, by accepting that it's so changeable and allowing yourself to access that change, being able to see when something's right in front of you, right? It takes you, this is something, like I said, that's accessible, that's there in the moment. When you can come to the moment, you can step out of your side, outside of yourself, and you can see what game you're playing. And I guess that's what I'm wanting to share. Like anybody could find this video, but I'm hoping this connects with with anybody, because it's important that we have ways of sharing this when there is a lot of suffering, a lot of things that we attach to ourselves or push away from ourselves and thereby bring to ourselves, that it's making the game not fun for a lot of people. That idea of curiosity is so important as well in a lot of these Buddhist teachings, the Vajrayana teachings that I'm learning. And it's because when you step out and you look at your situation and you see that you're a big part, right? You take real self-reflection and see how your feelings and ways of looking at the world play such a huge part in limiting the belief system that you have as a creator. And you hopefully can realize what that really means, that you are an unconscious creator, that no matter what, you're a creator. This is all make believe, this is all a game that we're playing and telling to ourselves. Most of us are doing it unconsciously. When you become conscious of it, it's like remembering that you've been doing it unconsciously. It's part of the whole thing. But when you can see your situation, you get a better idea of what that really means, because you could pull yourself out. You see all these things, you recognize these things aren't me. These are things that, like, maybe I'm doing to myself, maybe I'm believing are me, but you can pull out of it and imagine something new. And this really does come from a place of breaking down our conditioned pattern of beliefs, the systems that have been programmed into us through generations, and really tapping into something that's free of all that. That's the one of the biggest hindrances to this whole experience, is that a lot of these patterns go deeper than just the experiences we've had in our lives. They're, like I said, inherited over and over, generation to generation, put into like the psyche of humanity. And depending what country you live in, the way that you live your life, there's places that really keep, like, try to keep the self in a cage, but it's impossible because the divine speaks through every part of creation. And that's why I was able to find this in such a place of pain, a place of suffering, that being the number one point, because I realized that kind of when my reality breaks through suffering, it's the same as it breaking in deep meditation or in a psychedelic experience. Anything, yeah, pain isn't the only way there. There's an infinite numbers of ways to tap into this one thing, which is free of all these limiting beliefs put on us by others and accepted and put on us by ourselves. So this, even though it's a child in we tap into, this child has courage because they have faith in what they know. They have faith in the game that they're playing. They have faith that this is all make believe anyway. What the best thing, though, I think one of the most applicable, practical things psychologically, in a sense of kind of breaking apart even those barriers eventually, is it shows us our limiting beliefs by revealing our wounds. We don't let out the inner child often because it's hurt and scared. It's covered in doubts and insecurities, fears, jealousies, hatreds, attachments, and it just wants to be protected. When we can start to accept that those feelings, they're called kleshas, poisons, aren't going to hurt us, and we can learn to transform and transcend them, then we can meet ourselves where we're at. We can meet that child within us exactly where it's at, which is with a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of wounds. But by sitting in awareness of these things, being curious, looking at where these stories come from, where these hurts come from, where these wounds come from, we can learn to meet ourselves, meet that child inside of us from a place of love. And suddenly, nothing can touch us. When you can reach a place of living with and as and through that child part of yourself, you become free of all the evil eyes in the world because you see through even those the eyes of the divine self speaking to you through all parts of nature. So I hope this message finds anyone it's supposed to find. Like I said, it's not necessary for it. I could be here speaking to myself, and that's ultimately healing for, I think, everyone. Any one of us healing is good for everyone. But to be able to make real connections in this light show would be such a good imprint to help grow and expand, because there's some reason for it, some reason to walk along the path. So I hope you all take care, or see you later.